Hmm. Welcome, welcome. So excited for another live stream of Unbecoming Karen. Boo, 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 boo. So as we drop in, we just wanted to remind everyone, one of the reasons that we started doing this conversation in the first place is that we found that there's only so far that we can go on our individual healing journey before we really start to face and heal a lot of the collective trauma that's fueling some of the choices that we make in our everyday life. We want to name as we drop in here that we believe that healing is not about perfection, right? It's about being real and raw and committed to the process together. So that's what we're here doing together. So just a reminder as we drop in, just to honor your body, right? We're gonna be talking about things that are gonna land differently for all of us, bring up different things for all of us. So really just honor yourself. Just remember, like, this is being recorded, this is on YouTube. Like, if you need to take a moment, you can always come back and catch the whole thing. And just another reminder, right? Jargon is real. If there's language you don't understand, if we're talking about stuff and you're like, what are you guys talking about? Go ahead and just drop in that in the chat. Help us clarify. You know what I mean? There's no stupid questions here. Um, and then I guess just like, assume best intentions, right? Language is limited. We're human. We're here just like having real conversations. Notice how stuff lands with you. Notice when you're getting judgmental. Just like be aware of how this stuff lands with you, and let us know in the chat. Join in the conversation. And anything else, Clarissa, from that we wanted to bring up before we just drop in?
I wasn't actually looking at the list because it's
Never mind.
so white
I'll
in
say the
my
last
glasses.
one, which is we're not for everyone, right? So honor yourself, right? If this feels like this isn't for you, like we're not going to be offended. We love you, and there's so many more folks out there that might be aligned. So, and for those of you who are ready to go there, then here we go.
Yeah. So, hi, I'm Clarissa, Kristen Babs. We like to have a general flow for our live streams, and they generally start with like the housekeeping, just so you kind of know, and we're reminded to listen to your body and all these other things. But then we like to do a drop in because when we bring ourselves into a moment of stillness, of reclaiming our energy, of setting the intention to be here, to move through what's here for us to move through, it sets up the space differently than if we just launch in as if we just walked in off the street. And we want this to be a space that feels more sacred, more where you feel more grounded and connected, so that as we are moving through these potentially triggering conversations, you feel a little more deeply rooted, and we feel a little more deeply rooted. And we have this common experience of rooting ourselves in together to walk through these conversations. We also then will go into like a time of conversation, what comes up, what we're dealing with. And right now we have a particularly juicy, exciting Instagram post to unpack together, which I think we're all excited for because there's a lot of richness there. And then we always do a closing healing to help release and honor everything that came up and embody anything new that we want to bring in from the conversation, because that allows us to not keep walking in the world from this triggered, wounded place, but allows us to actually metabolize some of the stuff that came up, which I think is different than a lot of conversations that happen on YouTube, because you get all the content thrown at you and then you're like, oh, and your body's all messed up and you're like, I don't know what to do with this. So we hope that you will take some of these practices and begin to work them into your life, because we have found them to be incredibly healing as we have been stepping through these deep, meaningful, important, triggering conversations. So with that, I'm going to drop us in. I invite you to just shake out your body. I recently did a YouTube, not YouTube, I don't know, just like a live or whatever. And I was just inviting people to be weird for a minute, because we don't like give ourselves permission to be weird in this culture. You have to be, don't be weird. So just let yourself, most of you are not even on a screen, so listen to your body. Is it asking you to shake? Is it asking you to wiggle? Maybe it's even taking in a breath and letting out a weird sounding sigh as you're wiggling. Maybe getting your hips involved. Particularly women, we hold so much in our
Mm.
hips, and our lower pelvic region is a space of so much tension
Mm.
and so much uh, stored emotion lives there. And so just kind of working it out, maybe you even just like swivel your hips where you're
Mm.
standing or sitting, if you're able to do that in a chair,
Mm.
and just letting it ripple to your feet.
Mm.
Maybe even taking a moment, kind of patting your body, just coming home to yourself. You are in this human body right now on this planet. Just coming in contact with it, reminding yourself that you are here. And now taking a deep breath in. If they're not already, letting your eyes drift to a soft close or a soft gaze at the floor. Taking a deep breath in and release. Now I invite you to place one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly, and continuing to just breathe however it's most comfortable for you. I know my body wants a couple more deep breaths in. And one more. And releasing. Now just taking a moment to notice the stillness. How does your body feel? Does it feel excited or grateful? Does it feel nervous or hesitant? There's no right or wrong, just honoring, listening to what it is telling you. Sending a little body, a little gratitude to your body for holding you in this space, bringing you to this conversation at this time. Opening your channel above and inviting in your guides, our guides, inviting in our ancestors who want to support us in this healing, in this composting that we are here to do. Releasing what no longer serves, transmuting it into something that does. Asking Mother Earth to rise up to hold us in this container, lending her energy, her support, honoring that she has held our ancestors as well. She will hold our future generations. Imagine now opening up your heart space, opening up your mind space, opening up your gut, and just
Mm.
breathing into these three energetic centers and inviting them to come play with curiosity. Noticing at any point if they become constricted or closed off, that's okay. They're sending you a signal that they don't feel safe. And we are here to hold this space for them to be in curiosity, to begin to open up again. And so just letting it all be okay, inviting yourself into a place of play and curiosity and expansion, moving at the speed of trust, as one of my dear friends would say. Honoring that we are not here to be perfect. We are not here to have this all figured out. We are not here to perform. We are here to be together and lean into each other as we are in this time of great awakening and expansion and healing. So letting fall away any need to perform or get it all right or have it all figured out. And maybe even inviting in our inner children to come play and help guide us through this process so that we get to be with those younger parts of ourselves that we have turned off or turned away from, who are all about play. And that is how they get through their every moment, is curiosity and testing things out and not knowing and learning and expanding, inviting them in to play with us as well. Taking one last deep breath in and releasing. And as you're ready, softly let your eyes flutter back open. Looking around your room. That's called orienting. Did you see what Kristen did?
Mhm.
Just kind of let your body get your bearings.
Mhm.
I have kids knocking on my door to ask for gummy bears, so I may or may not tend to that. We'll see. We'll see if they go away. I don't know. Just inviting us back into this space where we get to play, even with deep, deep topics, and be together. So here we are.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. I feel so tingly, like so much more in my body now, which is really nice. It's a nice place to start for conversations about like inherited lineage of white supremacy. I feel like that often comes from a really like not embodied place, like when we enter into that kind of conversation about racism or white supremacy. I feel like we're often like not like fully in our bodies. We're really like maybe really in our intellect or really like in a response, like kind of like you know a, a very different energy than I feel right now. So I feel really grateful for that. On a presence, so we had talked about dropping into this idea of like composted lineage, right? Like as white folks, as white spiritual folks, like what does it mean for us to be working with our ancestors, right? To be honoring our ancestors when frankly our ancestors maybe caused a lot of harm, benefited from exploitation, profited off of the lives of other human beings. And so, or just were like totally complicit in a system, right? And so it can feel really like shadowy, I guess, to like work with our ancestors. And so we had found a post. Clarissa, did you want to share it and see if we can just have that shared so we can all kind of be like presencing in? It was a post I just found randomly, or not randomly, maybe I was guided to on Instagram from the Alchemist Papers. And it was titled Composted Lineages, Turning Our Inherited Harm into Fertile Ground. Um, mm, yeah.
Are
And I
you
do,
pulling it up?
what?
Are you pulling it up? Seemed like you were reading from it.
I am reading from it. I can share
Great.
it, I guess. I can share from it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me see if it's this. Okay. Let me make us big again though. Um, and let me just, okay. So I don't know. Do we want to read this? Yep. So it's for sure sharing, and it's just showing. Looks like it's just showing me. That's okay. Hold on. Oops. Never mind. Sorry, technical glitchy. Okay, so we were looking at this post by the Alchemist Papers, right? And I'll just go ahead and read for it. So, for a lot of us, the idea of honoring our ancestors doesn't feel comforting. It feels like a betrayal. How do we honor people who upheld systems of harm, who may have owned, persecuted, or silenced others? The shadow of that history lives in our bones, whether we look at it or not. My practice, so speaking for the person who posted this, asks for something messier. It asks me to tell the truth about where I come from and what I am willing to carry forward. Go ahead and advance that. I'm going to actually just make this bigger, I think, so that we can see the whole thing on the shared screen. So, mm, 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 mm. Okay, so this person says that they stopped organizing their ancestors by blood and started sorting them by energy. Some carry wisdom, some carry rot. Both are part of their story. There are ancestors of affinity, so the ones who dreamed, wrote, fought, created, and those are the ones that they choose to let feed them. And then there are the ancestors of burden, the ones who harm. And from their perspective, they're here to compost that energy. Um, and they talk about the wisdom of teaching through contrast. So I don't want to read too much more of this. I kind of want us to talk about it because there was stuff coming up. I'm going to actually just drop the link in the chat so folks can reference this because I'm going to stop the screen share so that we can all be on there. Um, mm, 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 mm. Mm, mm, mm. Maybe I will stop the share. Mm, mm, mm. Oh, here it is. Okay, stopping that. Okay, Clarissa, was there stuff that was coming up for you for that? Because you were kind of feeling jazzed about it. I'm going to drop this in the chat. Mm-mm. You're muted if you're talking.
I wasn't yet. I was just trying to sort out my all my tabs. It's we're like shifting back and forth. And by the way, just wanted to say that our dear friend Babs is here and feeling under the weather. So
Yep, but I'm here, but muted because I'm blowing my nose a lot.
yeah, I think what really came up for me when I was reading this is that we this first line, what they say, for a lot of us, the idea of honoring our ancestors doesn't feel comforting. It feels like betrayal. And so I know, at least in the spiritual world, there's a lot of talk about connecting with your ancestors.
Mm,
And sometimes that feels really crappy because there are these ancestors who, I mean, I feel I could be totally wrong on this, but once we leave this mortal coil, once we leave our body, we have access to way more information than we had while we were here. And so we might see that bigger picture. We might understand why we made certain decisions. There might be a period of like evaluation about what we did. I don't actually know how that works. But people do, well, I'm getting into like the theoretical here. I believe that we reincarnate and that it provides us a chance to come back and relearn those lessons or learn those lessons that we didn't fully learn in the previous life. And people have all kinds of different perspectives, and I value all of them. Um, but when I think about like my ancestors, I don't feel like there are any that are still anchored in that harm energy, but I still have the human connection to the nastiness of what they did. And that is the part that I feel a lot of shame around. I feel a lot of fear around. I feel embarrassment around it. Like somehow it devalues me if I came from these people.
mm,
So I think I've said this once or twice before, but my mom did our what is it, like
mhm.
ancestry.com, and has done way more than that, like extensive digging into our past. And she found out that like my great 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 like ten grandpas ago was the captain of the ship who brought over the first batch of slaves to America.
Oof. Wow.
Which of course I am here doing this work. And of course she is here doing the work she's doing, which is also relating and connecting a lot with the ancestors and doing a lot of this deep healing. Um, because like the first time I heard that, I felt like I got kicked in the chest. And it felt like such a betrayal. Like, how can that be? And how is that in my lineage? How can that be a part of me? And this like dirty secret that I think is
Mm,
so prevalent in our culture where we can't have people know the true nature of who we are because then they would not love us because it's so
mm,
ugly. And so
mm.
just like taking a moment, maybe hand on your heart, and just breathing in, reminding us that we are in this moment in time. We are not that ancestry. Like whatever came up for us, we are here in this moment. Just noticing that you're in a body, that you're here at this time. And coming back into the room, honoring that we have the gift of choosing what we do in this lifetime and how we process and metabolize these leftover emotions and the ones that are like in our DNA that cause that feeling and that sensation and that fear, but also that are a part of how we are responding to society now. And so,
So
yeah,
are you're referencing something that just came up in your body, I'm assuming.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're talking very like your body, but like I
I'm
want to
saying me.
presence it's yeah, you're
Yeah,
saying we, but like
yeah,
you mean me, right? Like,
right.
yeah,
And so, thank you for asking. So really, what I was attempting to do there is honoring that if anything was coming up for anybody, like here's how I'm moving through this moment in real time for this thing
totally.
coming up for me.
Yeah.
And so here's how, if something is coming up for you at some point when you think about your lineage or you think about how you feel about the word white supremacy, the term white supremacy, or an interaction with somebody when you're out and about in the world, just letting yourself pause and notice
Be-
where you are in this space. So
Because
that was
like
me modeling, but I didn't explain it.
well,
Thank
and
you.
because the other piece too, Clarissa, is like, I actually think we need to sit with what comes up. I don't think that we need to breathe and bring ourselves back to this moment. Like, I think we need to sit in that discomfort, right? Because, like, that's what is hard about being white. What's hard, you know what I mean? Is that, like, we have abandoned our ancestry because it embarrasses us.
Yep.
And we are looking now to other individuals whose ancestry has been a source of strength, right? Right? And like, but like, what does it look like for us to come back into relationship with our ancestry for exactly what it is, right? Because
Mhm.
like, you know what I mean? Like, ooh, okay, so like, yeah, like, what does it look like for us to just be like unabashedly, unashamed, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what that looks like, but I see the way it plagues our everyday life. So for example, right, both of you know that I work in the field of domestic violence, right? Domestic violence is one of those things that people don't talk about. It is, right? Like, for example, if someone's family member is a domestic, like, has been actually abused someone, do the family ever talk about that? Probably not. Does anyone ever confront it or face it?
Mhm.
Probably not. Why? Because it's embarrassing. Because what does it say about us? Because, right? And so, like, that's the whole shit, right? Is like, because the other piece is that, like, I am not that person's behavior, even if I share blood with them. So, like, there's also that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. What someone like most likely, if you're white in America, your ancestors made money off of slavery because I'm sorry, like we're still making money. Like people are still making money off exploitation. People are like, that is still the game. That's still that's capitalism, baby. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, what's coming alive for me during this conversation, I love what you just said, Kristen. Like, it's the shame piece, right? It doesn't get talked about because there's shame baked into it. And that's what perpetuates it. That's what keeps it able to keep going. Whereas if it's brought out into the light of day and talked about, it loses some of its energy and its strength, right? So yeah, it's almost like this collective complicity in the silence of things. Like I think about, as a healer, the number of incest survivors that I've worked with. I mean, talk about a shameful
Yeah.
secret, family secret. And that's so much more common than people are willing to admit. And that's why it's so common,
Mhm.
because it's not being addressed and spoken to, right? So that's something that's very alive for me right now. But the other piece is, when you were speaking, Clarissa, and that whole, gosh, the sharing the piece about, your ancestor 10 grandfathers back, who was the captain of the ship that carried the first group of enslaved people to this country. Um, like the fact, I'm just going to be thinking out loud, and this is the messy part, right? I don't know what's about to come out of my mouth, but the fact that any one of us would be so surprised and horrified to hear that, it's like we all, I think, and this is part of the white supremacist programming, and it's not, the oppressor programming, right? Um, None of us believe that we're the ones that carry it. We all believe it's somebody else that are the bad guys. Like, oh, there. At least I'm one of the good ones. Like, this is such a
Hmm.
white spiritual woman thing. Like, I'm one of the good ones. Um, and so that connecting to our ancestry, I know I do. I'm guilty of this. When I think about my ancestry, like you were talking about earlier, Kristen, like I always think about, all right, so my roots are kind of United Kingdom, so probably Celtic, shamanist, like I'm tuned into that. It's like, well, God, no, I don't know what my ancestry is back there, but I know that in there, in the mix, there were, just like that post was sharing, there's a lot of rot, I'm sure. There's a lot of perpetrators. There's a lot of ugliness of the human side of things, right? But none of us want to really own that as ourselves, right? And so it perpetuates, I think it's where like the root of some of the Karenness is the resistance to claiming
Ooh.
all of who we all are, because we all carry
Mm.
all of it ultimately, right? And if we're only willing to claim the quote, the light and not the dark, then that feeds Karen, right? Somehow it feeds Karen. The Karen
Mhm.
monster can get fed with that. But if we, and I'll share a story in a moment about this, if that's okay. If we can just claim all of who we are, like I think about, say, if I imagine myself, and maybe I have a 10th grandfather who did some thing that I don't know, I'm sure I do, right? Or grandmother, or um, if I can just be like, but wait a minute, I'm not them. I didn't do that. And I am I carry the DNA, the genetics, the energetic patterning of it. It's like, can I hold all of that? And then, like you were saying, Clarissa, you're here doing this work, your mom's doing this work, right? Like, when you really think about that, the poetry of it almost, right? The captain of the slave ship now has 10th granddaughter and 11th granddaughter who are doing this work. Like, there's a balancing of the scales in a way or something? So, um, the story I want to share, my ancestry, my mom's from England, my dad's French Canadian. So they've traced his lineage to a single man who came over from the Norman coast of France down the St. Lawrence in the 1600s, settled on an island on the St. Lawrence near Quebec, and had, many, many children, many, many generations, and spread throughout North America. And so I was in St. Lucia about 5 or 6 years ago on a retreat, and the retreat center we stayed at was owned by a family, a woman from somewhere in Europe. I don't remember where, Austria maybe, and her daughters. So white women that owned this place, right? And so I didn't know much about the history of St. Lucia, but St. Lucia's history was that it was like one back and forth between the British and the French and the British and the French and the British and the French. They kept coming in and it's like my island now, and then nope, now it's my island, and nope, now it's my island. And meanwhile, they both, when they came in, enslaved the locals, made them work on these sugar plantations, right? And this retreat center I was at was a former sugar plantation where they had sugar cane and produced rum. And on the property, I have photographs of this. Maybe I should post a photo in YouTube. On the property, there was this huge ficus tree down, like 30 feet down, and there was a huge water wheel. That was probably 30-foot diameter water wheel. And attached to it were the workings to press the sugar cane to produce the rum. So that's where the enslaved people would be forced to, put the sugar cane through these presses. And in the press where the two rollers were, there was this big, I'm not sure exactly what it was, some kind of a big metal pin that was big that somebody at some point had jammed into the works, had jammed up the works. Because in the 70s, St. Lucia gained independence,
Mm.
right? So the enslaved people, I don't know all the details, I don't remember about how it came about, but a day, a person in whatever circumstances grabbed that pin and shoved it in there and stopped the
Mm.
works, right? So I was down when we were on this retreat. I was by myself. It was early in the morning. I went down to where this amazing tree in the middle was, and all of this this machinery was there, and I'm standing there and I'm thinking about the fucking British and the fucking French, and they come in here and they take over and they make the people, and I'm standing there judging like these fucking British, fucking French, pardon my language. And then all of a sudden I'm like,
Mm.
British, French. Guess what? My ancestors, my lineage is British and French. And I just, it literally
Mm.
stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, you know, like
Mm.
shame collapse happens. Like
Mm.
what, this is what, where I come from is
Mhm.
these lineages that did, and they did, I mean, the British were
Wow.
colonizers and the French, right? They were like, well, there were so many European countries that were, but so it was just a moment of like having to, instead of pointing the finger out, it was like, okay, here it is in my body.
Mm.
So, yeah, so this whole piece about, and now were any of them my direct ancestors? I don't know. But genetically, for sure, it's all in there, right? So it's a
Well,
powerful thing to do. Like for me, so I think the work, the healing is, I think, for me to instead of being like, oh, that's horrible British, those horrible French, it's like, wait, just look with clear eyes at what was done,
mm.
you know? Because the pointing fingers and
Mm.
judging actually is a resistance of sorts, right? So it separates me from
Mhm.
just feeling it and allowing it to be. And it
Mhm.
creates a tension where there's two parts that aren't reconciled,
Mm.
right? But as soon as I can go, okay, this is truth, and I'm not pushing any of it away, then I just feel in my body. I don't know if you what you feel, if anything, but I just feel like a breath come in, like a settling, an openness, a willingness to be able to learn different things that I might have rejected or resisted before. It's like defensiveness, right? When we're not willing to look at something, there's defensiveness, and that's the Karen. That's the root of Karenness is defensiveness. When I'm unwilling to look at something or claim it or own it, then I just have a baseline defensiveness that's just looking for a finger to point, you know. But if I'm willing to go, oh, ow, that hurts. Okay, breathe, like you just demonstrated so beautifully, Clarissa, right? Like, ooh, I feel that in my body. Okay, breathe in with
Mhm.
that. Like that's what we're talking about when we're talking about healing this stuff in the body, right?
Mhm.
It's the physical, visceral reaction we have when we hear something, learn something, witness something in ourselves, what we're doing. So that's what's alive for me. And I think my voice is
Mhm.
now going, okay,
Mhm.
somebody else's turn.
Well, and I want to add too, it's like there's also a difference that like our bodies are designed to metabolize. And when we are fully present to something, we can metabolize, like our bodies can do the work of metabolizing things that have been left um, unmetabolized for generations. And I also want a presence too, because I like Googled this while you were chatting, but going back 10 generations, right? We would have at least one over 1,000 ancestors, right? 1,024 ancestors was like the calculation, right? And so like just like really presencing like how big our ancestry is, right? Because like especially as like a lot of white folks, like we severed ourselves from our ancestry, so we don't remember that far back. But like that's like big time, like relational, like you know what I mean? Like we're a lot more kin than we think that we are. Like we're a lot, like we have a lot of the same, especially like like as light-skinned people, you know what I mean? It's like the genetics, like our bodies like adapted for a region that didn't have a lot of sun. You know what I mean? Like we were like, please melanin, I need you. Like please vitamin D, I need you. Like come on. But like it, we're a lot more interconnected and related than we would like to admit. You know what I mean? And like that like I don't say that to be like bypassy, but I say that to say like again, if you're white in America, like the assumption should be that you're like some people in your ancestors were making money off the backs of black people. Like, welcome to America. Like, it's like it's still happening. It's, you know what I mean? Like businesses are still like using the bodies of black and brown and white, like, people to make profit, right? They're like sacrificing, like data centers are being built all over the place and like all weird cancers are emerging. You know what I mean? Like I tangenting, sorry. But like, it's like whew, like our bodies have been used and abused, right? And I feel like it's the other reason why it's hard to come into the body, right? Is because like I used this analogy when I first started meditating like 10, 15 years ago because like I couldn't be still. I couldn't be with myself when like people are like, let's drop in, or I didn't even know what that phrase was. But like it it's like that a house party was going on. It's really, really messy. And now we're coming home to a disaster, right? And it's like we gotta like, you know what I mean? We gotta just pick one room and start just tidying up and like get one trash bag and start like, you know, like if we haven't been with ourselves, like it might feel really uncomfortable to start coming back to sensation, to feel again, right? Because like, how did our ancestors survive this? They probably numbed out, they disassociated.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's why that was coming through to like just have us be in our bodies when we start to notice that stuff, because it's like you said, that like the disassociation is so prevalent and it's such a learned survival response that is probably in most of us that we don't even know it's happening. And so like just taking those moments when it feels uncomfortable or we feel like running away or checking out, to just like bring ourselves back into this physical body in this current moment. And from there we get to like breathe in. And Babs, I loved that illustration of how you like walked through being with those sensations and noticing the shame and naming it, because that's how we begin to alchemize this. But it's so natural for us to just check out. And it's so culturally normal, but also like it's just what you do. Like it's how people have survived this whole time, and these atrocities going back all of these generations is by not letting themselves see the full extent of what was happening and not letting themselves feel it and consider the humanity of the other person who was actually experiencing it. And the ones who were the perpetrators, they probably had to survive it by not seeing these people as people, not seeing them as human. And so um, that creates this, what's the cognitive dissonance? But it's also like in the body. It's
Absolutely. It's a
not just a mental
disconnection.
split.
Yeah, it's like a checking out, right?
Yeah.
Disconnection.
Yeah. It's like the only way to possibly have navigated the centuries of this and the
Yeah.
cultural expectations and the threat to your own physical body and that of your loved ones is
Yeah,
by.
and it can like it can seem as if you disconnect and therefore aren't experiencing it, right? You're just like it's happening in front of you, but you're like not really experiencing it. You still are.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Your body still is, right?
Hmm.
So,
It's just like when you
like,
watch a movie, you know what I mean? It's like
yes.
if you feel scared, you feel it's something, you know what I mean? Like your
Yeah.
body is experiencing it like real.
Yeah. You know, this it just reminds me of in Kairos, one of the other books we read was Milagros Phillips's book.
Mhm.
What was it called? Oh God, my brain is not functioning real
What
well.
was it? Let
But
me try.
Um,
it was like I always thought the title sounded way more like spiritual than I expected it to,
yeah,
for being
I
like a
can't
book on
remember what it
healing
was.
supremacy.
Yeah, it was about how the
Cracking
supremacy of
was it cracking the
Yeah,
healer's
the
cracking the
healer's
code?
code.
healer's code.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, a
Um,
prescription for healing racism, and I can't read what it says.
yeah,
Oh, finding
yeah,
wholeness.
and there was just so much beautiful education in that book for me. But a big piece of it was like, the really getting that racial violence lives on in both the victims of racial violence and
Hmm.
also the perpetrators of racial
Hmm.
violence.
Hmm.
So we tend to think that the only person that carries the trauma imprint is the victim of
Mm,
the violence, but
right.
and that's not just racial violence, it's any kind of violence.
Mhm.
Rapists, right, carry
Mhm.
the trauma of that in their bodies as well. And the unhealed aspect is what probably is partly causes them to continue doing it. Or so
Mhm.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, I heard this like saying once where it was like when we do that kind of harm, we leave a part of our soul, like we like sever, like leave a part of our soul and like
Voldemort.
yeah,
Like
right?
the
You know what
Horcruxes.
I mean? Like it really feels like yeah, like
The
it
purpose
does
of soul.
something to us
Mhm.
to do that. And it's interesting because, right, like when we're thinking of like, how are we breaking free of white supremacy? How are we breaking free of these systems, right? Like the systems have been designed to disconnect us. So part of the way that we break free from the system is to reclaim connection, right? To reclaim right relationship, like whether that's with each other, people of other races, people from other nations, but also like with the earth and plants and trees, right? Because like part of the like because well, Christianity, like kind of modern day Christianity has been one of the like legs that's like propped up like colonialism, white supremacy, right? And like in the teachings like of that lineage, right? There's this idea that man was placed above all
Mm,
else, right? But that isn't in other lineages, right? Like lineages that follow like the mother and all this other stuff. Like we're all the children of the mother. She birthed us all, right? But like in this one Christian lineage, like all of a sudden, like man and not woman, man, right, is placed above all, right? And like that's strategic. Like that is a very strategic move to do that. Same thing with the like it'll be okay because he died for our sins. So anything that I do now, I'll just be forgiven. Heaven's waiting for me. So I can like brutalize folks and like exploit people and do bad stuff because like like I mean I know that's not like the whole like always, but like there is that energy of like this life isn't as important as when I get to heaven. So like whatever. And like
yeah.
that feels bypassy and
And it feels like that like so the church was so deeply anchored in the South as well.
mm,
It was taught to I mean, of course, it like spread across the globe, but there is this like the way that people were able to survive, the oppressed people were able to survive was by, I think, hitching to that a little bit, like this is just this life, and in heaven it's going to be so much better. And so it allows people to tolerate this on all sides, right? It allows there to be this level of tolerance because knowing that in the afterlife it will all be rewarded. Blessed are the meek. uh, and so it allows this like perpetuation of that rather than being like, no, and I think about this all the time in like with ICE, with all this crazy shit that's happening these days, where I'm like, my life is still pretty safe. It feels still pretty good. And there are people I'm sure in my neighborhood who have been disappeared, and their family does not know if they will ever see them again. Like this is a real life thing that is happening right now. And so how can we like let ourselves be with what is happening and not let ourselves be complacent enough with
mm,
like this is all it is it I believe it is all eventually working out, but I would rather have it work out now so that people don't have to keep suffering.
mhm,
Right.
mhm.
um I had a something you said, Kristen, beautifully tied back to that post, but I just wanted to like, is there anything that was just showing up before I loop us back there?
Loop away.
No, I mean I was thinking about the post too, because like talking about like the resourcefulness that's also carried in our
Yeah.
bodies and like there is like a magical way that we have all survived
Mm,
such like brutal oppression. You know what I mean? Like I'm not from this area, but like in West Virginia, I think of like what the bodies of like all of the coal miners like went through and then like like the bodies of the wives, like watching their men, tending their men as they like, like there's just this legacy of brutality, um, and just like kind of like this expendable human energy,
Yeah.
right? Like where
Yep.
we're expendable, and like that just feels um just so wrong to me. And like before we actually hop in, like one thing that's been kind of rising for me is like the dangers, like the dangers of secular living, right? Where like when nothing is sacred,
Hmm.
then what? Then we have this.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's like money becomes the idol, right?
Right.
Everything
Right.
becomes about money.
And it's
Yeah.
so trained in like on so many levels. It's so subconscious
Yeah.
that it is you don't know that it's an issue, you know?
Right. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll loop us back to this page I'm looking at on the reel. And it says, when lineage feels too heavy, I turn to the first and oldest ancestor, the earth
mm,
itself. The planet doesn't take sides. It holds the bones of victims and perpetrators in the same soil. Standing barefoot on the ground helps me remember that neutrality. When my heartbeat sinks with a slow rhythm beneath me, I can finally face the human mess with a steadier spine. And then this person goes on to walk through these little rituals. I light a white candle for clarity and tie a knot in a black thread, naming the pattern that I refuse to inherit: shame, silence, scarcity, whatever it is. And then I speak it aloud. I acknowledge the burden carried. I take responsibility only for my life. I sever the debt. I do not carry your trauma or complicity. When I cut the thread, I create the break. When I burn or bury it, I compost the story. And then they do this also with the other. So, oh, actually, I thought they did this like with the other ancestor as well, the one that fuels them, but I don't think they do. So, um, but naming it with the old fears as well. I name this as an old scarcity wound. I write it down, I crumble it, place it in my altar bowl, ask my resilient ancestors to break it down. The fear becomes nourishment, the rot becomes fuel. To me, this is the slow, messy, and living process of alchemy.
ah. I think that that's what I did too, actually, is I just rooted into the earth. Like when I think of like where I started and where I am now, like I wasn't open really to working with a lot of my ancestors in the beginning, or guides or I was a little like a little suspicious. But like the earth was like, oh, I know you.
Mhm. And she's still right there.
She's right there. She's been there this whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like the ultimate root of it all, right? Like we've forgotten who we really are,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is, Earth. We're Earth in like
Yeah.
embodied form.
Yeah.
Okay, muting.
Yeah. I want to also like just really presence, right? Like this ritual or like any small ritual, because I think that's the other thing for white folks is this like how do we reclaim like ritual magic, right? Because it was kind of I was going to say bred out of us since we were
Yep.
like viciously um attacked for doing anything ritualistic. But ritual's really powerful, right? Like whether it's like yeah, like severing knots, like releasing codes from our DNA, like unplugging, unhooking, whatever, or like prayers, all of that. It's like oh, it's real. You know what I mean? Like it works. And I feel like that's where I like struggle sometimes when like with like these really secular spaces and like space, because again, right, like we're so scared to offend each other or our beliefs are like not compatible. And so like we have to be inclusive. So that just means we're not going to do like anything. But like not being able to like ground into like the source from which we all come, like the all that is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And I also want to like say, as someone who's like held space both before I knew about calling in teams, setting spaces, ritual, right? And now someone who's done that after. And I don't always tell people that I do it, right? Like I do this in my regular work and I'm not like in the school, like, okay, children, I'm calling in your highest selves and guides. But like before I'll say a prayer, you know what I mean? I'll like set an intention. But like people feel it. You know what I mean? Like people feel it. Like I remember when I started doing it and I noticed that like the attendance was like, like I was holding like a recurring thing that normally, like the first time I did it without the space holding, you'd get like a couple people and then like no one's showing up because it's a hard conversation and it's heavy and like, it's like, But then when I started doing that, and I would always have like a bowl of salt water that I would like put underneath my desk to be like, salt water, like take anything. And maybe I'll start doing that for these calls too. But like take anything that like isn't that doesn't serve us, that's not ours, that doesn't need to be carried by us. Like you can transmute it, Mother Ocean, right? And like people came, like people were steady coming. And I was like, oh, that's because when they leave, they're not like burdened by the residual collective gunk that has, it's like we're trying to get somewhere pure, but we're digging through oil. You know what I mean? Like we're trying to get to the pure place, but our arm went through oil. And then we go back to our life and we're covered with oil and we're like, why do I feel so gross? I'm like covered in oil. Um, but like we need to cleanse that oil off, you know? Like, yeah. Are we feeling like complete? I can feel like we are feeling maybe like we're
Yeah.
complete.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in, so I know and have been around and have experienced and have taught about the power of ritual um and there's still this like voice inside of me that's like, it doesn't really matter. Like you don't need to make time for that. It's weird. Like you don't, that doesn't actually work. And so just honoring that that's part of the programming too. So notice if that shows up in you and and just inviting yourself again into that place of curiosity and play. I mean, for me, like I've done enough work that I see that as a pattern in myself, and I'm able to be like, well, that's bullshit. Like, I still need to do some clearing and healing around that, and I will. But for people who are not sure, who don't actually know yet, I just invite you to like play with some of this ritual magic that wants to come up to help release some of this stuff, because part of how we were colonized is to keep us, is to break us from the power of that, the connection to the earth, working with her elements, um, working with the spiritual world, and having us then over the centuries be like, well, that's weird. Like you can't believe it if you can't see it. And so just letting ourselves begin to get curious about it again and see like, how do I feel before I do this? And then I do it. How do I feel now? Do I feel a little different? Did something shift? And letting just like those little micro curiosities kind of lead the way through this transformation. Because it's really easy to just be like, shut the door, I'm busy, I don't have time for that. Like, and let us actually see if it makes a difference to prioritize some of this healing ritual.
I also want a presence too, right? That like I know like as white people, we can complicate things. We can make things like more serious than they need to be. We
Mhm.
want to do things right. We don't want to be wrong. We don't want to make mistakes. And so I want to just like really presence that like this gets to be yours. Like, you know
Mm.
what I mean? Like you get to make anything into a ritual, right? Like so when I was first playing with rituals, um one of my rituals I just started when I was hand washing. So it would just when I was washing the hands, I would ask the water to bless
Mm.
me and take anything. This was also when I worked in retail, so I was touching a lot of stuff. So energetically, I was like, oof. So I'd just like ask the water to just like clear me. And like anytime I washed the hands, I was just doing that. Or like going to the bathroom. I would just like when I went to the bathroom while I was sitting over the water, I'd be like,
Mm.
water, take anything else that I'm carrying that's not mine. Thank you. And then I'd flush, right? And like not out loud. I mean, maybe if I was by myself, but like at a public restroom, I'm not doing that out loud. But like, you know, we can build these in like when we're brushing our teeth. Let me wash away any of the like things that like, you know, that weren't, you know, regrets or whatever, you know, like we can just bring it into our everyday. This doesn't have to be like, well, now I have to dedicate my life to doing ritual. It's like, no, your life can just be ritual.
I love that.
Yeah.
And it can be like playful and goofy.
Yeah.
Um,
Like one that I do when I drive is like I when I get in the car before I like put into drive, I just say like, "Okay, Isis, thanks for protecting me. Angels and runners, clear the way." And then I'm like, "Here we go." And then and I've mentioned this before. Like I'm always like that took my I used to have the worst driving anxiety and now I'm like, I'm a great driver. Driving's fun. I used to like sweat and like I would like just not go anywhere. I'm like, I'm just not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and anything is an opportunity for this, right? Because with me being really sick this past week and having this
Hmm.
like horrendous cough and a lot of just really loose stuff in my lungs. And I like part of my history is I have some lungs, like I was born, I almost died because my lungs weren't fully developed. And then I had a fungal infection in my lungs when I was in high school that come to find out can actually be fatal. And so I wonder like, have my lungs been hurt by that? And I know that it's like I can choose to believe, right? So I'm gonna not feed my lungs with that kind of belief system. So as I've been coughing up a lot of stuff, I'm like, all right, I'm coughing up any energy that's held in my lungs from anything from the past, from birth stuff. I almost drowned when I was 2. Let's cough that up and out of here. And so I've just been using it as an opportunity to like clear out any residual energy that's remaining in my lungs from any of that. So I was like,
Hmm.
you know, it's not the hand you're dealt. It's not the card you're dealt. It's how you play them, right? So,
Hmm.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And we're like, we know that humans, like everything around us is determined by mirror neurons, like what we have seen modeled. And this is a really special, potent, powerful time in history where we are recognizing and learning the science behind this stuff. And we are realizing that we have choice. And so, what have I been modeled and mirrored that I unconsciously adapted and adopted in order to survive? And what can I choose to let go of that is not actually serving me, that I don't want to carry forward or model for others? So, it just feels like such an awesome time to be here doing this work where we get to have both the science and the history and the knowing and the knowledge, like the over knowledge that we have, and the ability, the tools to apply all of that to what we're carrying forward and how we
Hmm.
choose to show up.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, do we want to,
Mhm.
I was gonna say drop out, but like, do a drop out? No. Do a little like healing
And I think my
icing.
voice is done at this point, so
Yep.
I'll receive very gratefully and be present energetically.
Okay. I love that. Claire, so do you feel called to start or how do you feel?
No.
Okay, then I'll start us. Okay, so I'm gonna just invite everyone to just start coming back into your body in whatever way that is for you. We've been talking about a lot. Ooh, we've kind of been all over the place as we tend to be. And so just letting yourself come back home to your body, to the place on earth where you inhabit. Just taking a few breaths here. And as you land here, I'll just invite you to imagine that you can just set down, release, let go of anything that's not yours, anything that you don't need to carry forward with you for the remainder of your day. Just giving that to the earth, ooh, returning it to sender. Ooh. And just taking a breath here and really receiving everything that is yours. Ooh. Everything that is here for you to carry forth, everything that has been seeded, everything that's germinating, everything that serves you. Just really breathing that in and feeling yourself. Just integrate that. And from this place, I'm going to invite our maybe just one well ancestor to step forward here. You don't need to know who this person is. You don't need to know their story. But just allowing them to step forward, just feel their presence. They have an offering for you. So I'm just going to invite you, if you're willing, to just receive that offering from them. Just receive it however it wants to land, maybe as a knowing, maybe as a sensation, maybe a surprise that you will become aware of later. Just really trusting that you are receiving this blessing now. And I can sense too that our collective ancestors have like a cloak of awareness, that they are just adorning onto us. And this is just going to allow us to just become aware of that which we need to become aware of, to guide us, to guide our senses, our instincts towards that which is in our awareness that we need to know about. And they're just asking you to really trust here. Each of us is on our own journey. Each of us has our own kind of task, our own role to play in this unraveling, in this reweaving. And so just really trusting that the cloak of awareness that has been placed on you is going to guide you specifically on your perfect path, on the things that you need to be aware of in this time, in this moment. It's just sending out some gratitude, thanking our collective well ones for knowing exactly what we need and for helping us to become aware, leaving those breadcrumbs, bringing those things into our awareness. And then from this place, I'm just going to invite in the Markaba field of protection. So this is like an image of two pyramids that make like a big 3D star. And just inviting this shape, this pyramid facing upward, and this pyramid facing downward, creating this beautiful three-dimensional star. Just feeling that field erect around you, maybe around your home, around your community, around your neighborhood, around this planet. Just feeling yourself really held and protected here, knowing that anything that is for you can make it through this field, but that you are safe here, that you are held and protected, and that you can move forward trusting in this field of protection. You are safe here. Mm. Yeah. So feeling complete here, Clarissa, is there anything that you want to bring through or that wants to come through you?
Just like a quick little sound
Yeah.
to close us out here.
Mm. Mm.
Inviting your molecules to attune to the sound of the sound bowl. Just letting this vibration shake loose anything that is ready to let go, to be let go. Hey, hey, hey. Ooh, hey, hey, hey. deep breath in. Inviting anything you want to take with you want to keep with you want to keep working with, alchemizing, metabolizing. Breathing it in and releasing anything you are ready to let go of. Thanking our ancestors, our guides, Mother Earth for being here with us as we walked through this conversation and these processes today. Asking them to continue to be with us in a very visceral way where we know they are every bit as close as our breath. All we have to do is call them in, ask for their assistance, and they will be right there supporting us in this process. Maybe even invoking that they are already on it all the time, even when we are not conscious of this, and they are continuing to dismantle these old systems in our bodies, in our societies, in the air we breathe. Composting it, alchemizing it, transmuting it into the future that we are now, from an awakened perspective, creating together from choice, from wellness, from releasing perfection and doing it anyway, leaning on each other, fumbling our way through it, and letting it be better. Taking another deep breath in, calling all of your energy back to you, and releasing anything that is not yours. With gratitude from my heart to your hearts. Deep breath in. And as you're ready, letting yourself come back into the space, letting your eyes flutter back open, looking around the room, reorienting yourself to the space, feeling your feet on the floor, noticing how you feel now. You brought up a lot. And how do you feel after that process of letting some of it be metabolized? We thank you for being here with us on this journey. We welcome comments if you listened after the fact and you're like, wait, what did you mean by that? Or can you elaborate? Or I felt that too, or any of that. We want to hear your stories. Let us know what you're moving through and what we might, both of those things, support you with.
All right. Thanks,
everyone.